When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires. And now you can race to victory with TwinSpires tournaments.
Welcome back to the TwinSpires Jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with James Scully and Darin Zoccali. A little bit lighter on the stakes schedule this weekend after Breeders' Cup, but we have opening day at Aqueduct for the fall meet, not to be confused with Belmont at the Big A. We also have Churchill Downs and Woodbine. And Darin, I'll start things off with you. You're not going with Aqueduct, which is kind of in your backyard. You're going with Churchill Downs for your best bet.
Yeah, best bet is going to be at Churchill. We'll talk about Aqueduct a little bit later on. It comes in the Grade 3 River City, which is race number 10 on the program. It's a really great card on Saturday, scheduled for 1 1/8 miles over the turf course. I really like Gigante here, making his second start back off the layoff. This horse had a really good effort in the Munoz Memorial, which we are going to show you guys and take a look back at that second place runner-up performance there. Gigante sat right off the speed, took the lead here in mid-stretch. And at this point in the race, you got to be feeling pretty good if you got a win bet on him. But here comes a horse flying down the outside of the course that's going to just kind of run by him. But he does hold the second place spot in what I thought was a really solid performance. Now, coming out of this race, he does go to the sidelines for the better part of 6.5 months. And he came back about 4 weeks ago in a really tough non-condition allowance event, which is essentially a glorified stake race, running against a couple of the competitors he's seeing again here. And he was stuck down inside. He didn't really have anywhere to go in the stretch. And I really think that there was more to offer that day. And on top of it, I expect him to improve in his second race back off of the layoff. So a proven commodity in stakes company. He's going up against some favorites here that are dropping in class. Cash Equity coming out of the Grade 1 Turf Mile, where he was overlooked and has run well on this track before. So I do recognize that. But Reckoning Force and Emmanuel have been two horses that I've never loved in spots like this at short prices. So we're going to take a big swing with a long shot here. Gigante 12-1 is our best bet in the River City.
Cash Equity is my fade of the week, so I'll talk about that in a little bit. But James, I'll turn it over to you. What's your best bet?
Yeah, I like that best bet, 12-1 in that River City. My best bet is going to be number 8, Masterpiece, to make a successful title defense in this is my best fade. It's number 8, Masterpiece, to make a successful title defense in Saturday's Grade 2 Red Smith at Aqueduct. Masterpiece, he's an 8-year-old gelding, and he recorded his first stakes win in Chile way back in 2019. His first U.S. stakes win came in the 2022 Eddie Reed. And one could make the argument that the Great Gelding has held his form completely this year at age 8. He improved to 2 for 2 over Aqueduct's turf with a victory in the Grade 2 Fort Marcy this spring. And I really liked Masterpiece's last effort. Cabo Spirit basically stole the Grade 2 John Henry Turf Championship on the lead at Santa Anita last time out. But Masterpiece ran a really good third, beating only a length in that spot. And, he's listed at 5-2, so I won't get the greatest value, but I don't think he's going to be he's not going to be the favorite. I think Integration, the morning line favorite, will go favored. And I think Rebel Red is going to get bet down from 8-1 on the morning line for Cherie DeVoe. So I'm still hoping to get a decent price on Masterpiece. Here we're looking at his Red Smith win. You can see him on the outside there. This Great Gelding has got good tactical speed, like I said, and I expect Masterpiece to get the first run on deep closers like Integration and Rebel Red in the Grade 2 Red Smith on Saturday.
We have a lot of overlap. I know that Darin is going to be talking about Integration, so I'll move on to my best bet. It's number 3, Stormcast. A long shot here, 12-1 in the Bessarabian Stakes at Woodbine, race 8 on Saturday. This is a Matoli filly who's really the lone true early pace setter type in the field. There's a lot of late runners signed on. This is a 7-furlong sprint. And Stormcast 1-2 back in a non-graded stakes at Woodbine. Racing amount is 16th, went gate to wire, and had triple-digit E1 and E2 Brisnet speed figures. raced on turf last out, but going back to a synthetic surface, and has finished in the money all 4 times. She has raced on all weather. Mark Cassie is her trainer, and paired up with Rafael Hernandez, has a positive ROI over the last 2 months. So I'm going to take a shot based off of the projected pace scenario here, and looking for Stormcast to have her way out the gate and going gate to wire here. And I know, Darin, you'll be talking about all of the greatest stakes at Woodbine, so let's move on to our fades of the week.
Hey, another good price. I mean, you guys, here I am thinking of 5 to 2. I'm usually looking for some price horse.
Right?
And I'm going up against you guys, and you both are picking 12 to 1 shots.
Well, James, tell us about your 3 to 1 price that you're fading.
Okay, my best fade is going to be number 5, fashionably Fab, in the grade 3 Make Believe at Woodbine on Saturday. I just think Fashionably Fab has run her best races at mile and 16th distances. And I think she looks vulnerable stretching out to a mile and a quarter in this Make Believe on Saturday. Really good card at Woodbine on Saturday's program. And, you know, she comes off Fashionably Fab, does this dramatic rally and victory where she closed from 12th to just get up in the grade 3 Ontario matron. I think she's going to be hard pressed to duplicate that effort, like I said, on the stretch out of distance. And I just think there's several rivals in here, including number 2 Millie Girl, number 12 Queen Regent, and number 13 Caitlin Her Greatness, who rate more consideration for the win. So I'm going to try to fade Fashionably Fab, the morning line favorite in the grade 2 Maple Leaf Stakes. Grade 3 Maple Leaf Stakes at Woodbine on Saturday.
Actually, I like Elysian Field as well, who finished second to Paramount Prince in the King's Plate last year, but Caitlin Her Greatness won the King's Plate this year. So definitely a really good filly at the distance that the Maple Leaf will be run on Saturday. Darin, what about you?
Yeah, the Red Smith, which James talked about earlier with his best bet, it also features my fade, and that is the morning line favorite of Integration. Look, Integration is now listed at 2 to 1 as the morning line has come in. He's a horse that has always shown a lot of talent, especially last year as a 3-year-old. I guess, despite the fact if you can call a $500,000 season a disappointment, maybe Integration's 4-year-old campaign could be called that, because this is a horse that was supposed to be a leading contender as one of the better older turf horses in the country. He didn't make it to the Breeders' Cup. His form really didn't warrant it coming out of a 4th place finish in the Turf Cup. I think he's questionable at longer distances. A mile and a half, a mile and 3/8. I think that's part of the reason why you didn't see them consider going in the Breeders' Cup turf. I think for this horse, a mile is probably too short, and a mile and a half is probably too far. And there's really not a Breeders' Cup race for him. You're getting a look at him here running second in the Arlington Million, but this is a race where he was never a threat to win. He was not beating Nation's Pride this day. He just kind of was the last of the horses coming from off the pace that made any type of a late run. He was clearly second best that day. And while you can argue that there's no Nation's Pride in this field, he's going to take a lot of money again. He's burnt cash in a lot of spots this season. And I just think other horses here with more upside have a chance to move forward. You have a war horse in Masterpiece, who I think James's best bet certainly has a shot. Rebel Red is a horse with upside who's getting good at the right time. And a couple of other horses that are coming off of some good efforts, including a proven marathon runner and limited liability. So for me, at a short price, Integration is a horse that I would definitely like to fade here in the Red Smith.
Yeah, I agree with all those takes. The distance is a major concern, going a mile and 3/8. And his lone win this year was in it was a 3-horse stakes race. The other 2 horses were badly outclassed. And that wasn't even a real race in my mind, or at least comparable to a graded race. So I want to see him really start to, he hasn't come close to, replicating his form from last year when he got good in late summer, early fall. And I like that fade, Darin.
Yeah, he really does his best running at Colonial, though he does, have the 1 win in his 1 start previously at Aqueduct, but feels like a different horse this season. And I will go back to a race we've already talked about as well, the River City Stakes, and talk about that morning line favorite, Cash Equity, who is 5 to 2 on the morning line, and a late closer who's been racing at a mile in his last 3. We saw him in the Mint Millions. He was a long shot that day when he finished second in the Mint Millions at Kentucky Downs, and now he's stretching back out to a mile and 1/8, but he's only won once from 6 tries at this distance, and he's finished in the money 4 times or 5 times total, but seems to settle for minor awards. So looking at the pace setup here, I don't really see a whole lot of speed. This is a late closer. I like a few other horses. We've already talked about Higante, but I also think Battle of Normandy is interesting in this spot. And then Reckoning Force is the second choice on the morning line, but just beaten a neck at 1.125 in the Grade 3 Knickerbocker. So I feel like that horse has a little bit better form coming in at this distance, and I'm going to fade Cash Equity at 5-2.
Yeah, it's part of the reason why I like Gigante is that this is a short price. Look, I recognize the fact that he's dropping in class, but he wasn't exactly a threat in the turf mile. And Kentucky Downs form, for me, I'm always dubious about coming out of that into other stakes races, especially in Kentucky. And this is a horse that, yeah, he's made money on the stakes circuit this year in the Mint Million, but when he wins, it's typically against lesser company than this. And he hasn't won a race in a while because he hasn't been able to quite win at stakes levels of recent history. So for me, I think all three favorites in this race are beatable, and that's why my best bet came here with a price.
Yeah, he was claimed Cash Equity for $80,000 from a second place finish last November and has not won since then. So, I mean, take him at 5-2 all you want to in that spot.
I would like to claim a horse for 80,000 that then goes on to make 310 without winning a race. That would be okay with me.
And you would cash a lot of exactas and tries and supers using him underneath. Exactly.
There you go.
Well, let's move over to our promos and tournaments going on this weekend. So, Darin, tell us about that.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff. We'll start on the tournament side. The Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge is upon us in terms of the feeders and the qualifiers. We have one going on right now as we are going out live at Churchill Downs, where we're actually going to be awarding 5 seats today into Saturday's qualifier. There's over 40 people taking part in the contest today. We have one more feeder tomorrow that's going to award seats for the qualifier Saturday. And then we have our second Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge qualifier where we guarantee a seat, and then every 33 players after we get to 33, we add another seat. So could get to 2-3 seats given away. And obviously we expect this to continue to grow and build as we get closer and closer to Kentucky Derby season. But yeah, truly a great event coming up on Saturday with this qualifier. And what's really cool is that we actually have an incentive this weekend. So if you go to the cashback on the offers page, you'll see a 25% bankroll cashback offer where we have some designated tournaments that we basically are giving you back 25% of your bankroll if you participate in the tournament and wager your full original bankroll. So the tournament on Saturday is a $400 contest with a $250 part of that going to your bankroll. If you take part in that contest and you bet the $250, you're going to get back $62.50 of your bankroll. So it's almost like a 25% rebate on your tournament bankroll. So really trying to incentivize players to take part in this, give them a little bit of an incentive. So be sure to be opted into that if you buy an entry to Saturday's qualifier. And of course, our qualifiers at Churchill Downs, we have a great offer at Churchill as well. $3,000, hit it and split it. All you have to do is hit 3 pick threes, any 3 pick 3 wagers, and you split $3,000. This goes on every single day of the Churchill Downs meet throughout the end of November. Actually, December 1st is their closing day this year. It's a really cool offer for the pick 3 players. It's something new that we're trying. 3 pick threes opted in. You share in $3,000. A pretty cool deal there. And also don't forget, always participate in BetShare. It was a huge hit over the weekend with the Breeders' Cup. It's an opportunity to get some tickets out there, have some people buy into some shares, reduce your risk a little bit, get other people involved, take part in some winning wagers. So always be involved with TwinSpires BetShare and some of these great multi-race exotics wagers. So as always, guys, plenty going on, even though the Breeders' Cup is in the rear view.
And we had Ashley give out a winning BetShare ticket on Breeders' Cup Friday.
Yeah, that's right. Like late pick 4.
Nice.
Didn't hit the early pick 4. I think we talked about it. I was never going to land on Starless, but I did not play Soul of an Angel.
It was still good. It was still a solid return though, with Citizen Bull and others in there. So
the Starless race really hurt me because I had multi-race exotics singling Soul of an Angel, and I had no Starless. So that was tough. But that's what the win pool is for.
All right, well, let's move on to what else is going on this weekend. So, Darin, tell us about Woodbine.
Yeah, Woodbine's got a great card on Saturday. They're coming close to the end of their meet. They got 3 graded stakes races. You guys have talked about a couple of them. The Grade 3 Maple Leaf, the Grade 3 Bessarabian, and the Grade 2 Autumn. All of them have big fields. In fact, they have a 10-race card, 105 entries over the 10 races. So don't forget about our friends north of the border, as it really is a spectacular day of racing. And one of the races that James talked about in particular, I thought was interesting with the Bessarabian Stakes, where they are excuse me, with the Maple Leaf going a mile and a quarter. The horses that are going to take money in here are coming out of a race in the Ontario Matron that I'm not very high on. And the reason I'm not very high on the race is because the first, second, and third place finishes, all coming out of that race, were coming out of trips where the pace collapsed and they all closed from last, next to last, and third from last. And whenever you see a 1-2-3 finish like that, where the horses are just coming from extremely far back, it really calls into question for me the form of that race. And I look to often bet against that type of a race as almost a negative key race angle. And that does take place here in the Maple Leaf with these horses coming out of the Ontario Matron. So if you're looking at that race, maybe there's an opportunity to fade some of the chalk coming out of the Ontario Matron and make some money elsewhere. But no matter where you go, it really is a spectacular card with some great graded stakes races, and also a lot of races with big fields on the card as well. So get involved.
James, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm going to mention real quick, Brad Cox. We saw yesterday Liberal Arts won his first start since been transferred to Brad Cox, first start since the Lexington Stakes in the spring. And Brad Cox had a dynamite weekend, obviously, with Immersive winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. She's going to be champion 2-year-old filly and a top contender for the Oaks. Last Friday at Churchill Downs, he had a Not This Time Colt, a 2-year-old Juddmonte homebred named Disco Time that debuted at 7 furlongs, won by more than 3 lengths as the favorite, and looked good doing so. And Cox and Juddmonte have another son of Not This Time on Saturday's 5th race at Churchill Downs. His name is Final Gambit. He's number 5, Final Gambit, and he's 7-2 on the morning line with Tyler Gaffleone. And I expect this colt to run big on turf. I mean, Not This Time. He throws sprinters on dirt, turf, routers on dirt, turf, synthetics. He's fantastic in all dimensions so far as a sire. And this Final Gambit is out of a Tappet mare. There was a multiple winner on grass. She herself is a half sister to grade one winning French horse Announce. And lots of classy turf types in these bloodlines. So watch out for Final Gambit in race 5. Cox is, like I said, absolutely loaded with 2-year-olds this fall. And this could be another exciting one, this time on the grass.
Yeah, he's so loaded, guys, that Immersive might not even be his best 2-year-old filly. I don't even know if I'm sold on that yet.
Oh yeah, well he's definitely got that. He's got good cheer,
Yeah.
and he's got that Stunner who just won the Tempted by Open Lens. So he's absolutely loaded with 2-year-old fillies.
No, it's insane the last couple of weeks that he's had, and to say that he's sitting on go heading into the road to the Kentucky Oaks would be a huge understatement.
I'm going to talk about a 1-mile turf event as well. This is Friday at Aqueduct, and it's the Grade 3 Pebble Stakes. This is for 3-year-old fillies. And so Chad Brown is in this field with 2 entries, and he has won this race 6 times since 2015 and has won the last 2 editions. Oversubscribed, the 2-to-1 favorite here. This is a filly who made her debut as a 3-year-old and is going for her 3rd win. Finished 2nd in the Lake George, which we're watching here at Saratoga. She also has a stablemate, D. Matrona, who's on the rail with Irad Ortiz Jr. So a longer price, but 2 good chances for Chad Brown. But this is an interesting field. We have See You Around making her first U.S. start for Christophe Clement. And then we also have Jody's Pride, who's by American Pharoah, trying turf for the first time. You may remember her from the Kentucky Oaks Trail, but American Pharoah has sired 6 grade or Group 1 winners on the turf. So maybe we see a good performance from Jody's Pride trying the grass for the first time. We also have Way to Be Marie, who was the favorite in the Regret on June 1st at Churchill, failed as the favorite at 1 1/8 of a mile, cutting back to a mile here off a long layoff. So it won't be the easiest easiest field for Chad Brown to beat this time, but I mean, he's got 2 chances to, once again claim another win in the Pebble Stakes.
I think Oversubscribed is a deserving favorite, will be favored. I mean, she's the horse to beat to me, cutting back to a mile, but See You Around is not going to be 8-1. I mean, she's a French Group 3 winner, and she just ran a good race against Soprano, who was in the filly and mare turf and ran second to She Feels Pretty in the Grade 1 Queen Elizabeth. So I'm really intrigued to see how that Christophe Clement trained filly, she's with Clement now, See You Around, performs in that Pebbles.
Yeah,
cool.
Interesting shot in there too.
Cool race named for the winner of the Breeders' Cup Turf in 1985. Was actually a filly that came in from overseas with Pat Ettery, who won the turf at Aqueduct that year. So obviously the race being at Aqueduct is apropos. But yeah, one thing I would have lost money on at this Breeders' Cup, guys, this year is if you would have asked me for the safest bet of the year on January 1st, I would have said Chad Brown over 1/2 of a horse in the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf. So to see him not have a horse in there was just striking. And I know it was because of the distance of the race. But, yeah, we'll see if he can get back onto the filly and mare turf groove. He certainly got a couple of good shots there on the Pebbles.
A nice call, James, on the filly and mare turf.
Thank you. Moira!
All right, that's all the time we have today for the TwinSpires jury. Head to TwinSpires.com or the app to bet on all these races and more this weekend, and we'll see you next Thursday.
When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires. And now you can race to victory with TwinSpires tournaments.